are currently joined by energy expert Hilton Trollip on the line. Thank you so much for your time, sir, this afternoon. So, I mean, just having listened to that briefing, I mean, one of the things that the minister did say a few days ago was that there'd been an improvement in the implementation of the Energy Action Plan. Just having listened to that briefing, do you get that sense that, you know, government, particularly the Electricity Ministry, has a hold of what is currently happening and is making some improvement, especially when we start speaking about increasing the energy availability factor?
Good afternoon. I'm not sure how much time I've got, so I'm not sure what kind of detail to answer in, but let me just kick off. So I've listened to the whole briefing. The briefing's still going. And while I was listening to the briefing, the question I was asking myself is, what is the minister telling us about future plans? What is he telling us about what we actually know already about load shedding? And what is he telling us about action? In other words, something that's actually been done. So then, in answer to your question, I think the minister is getting a better and better grasp of what the problem is. He's been in his position now since the 7th of March, April, May, nearly 3 months. So he's getting an idea of the problem. I think each time he talks about the problem, he is more realistic about what can be achieved. So very specifically then about his plans or about what's been done. So firstly, nothing. There's been no action in terms of actually improving either power supply to the grid. In fact, the energy availability factor continues to go down, nor in decreasing demand on the grid. Those are the two ways that you would deal with an emergency situation. June has come. We were told last December that this was basically an emergency when we had our first stage 6 again. 6 months has gone by, and we have an electricity minister that is starting to get an idea of the depth of this problem. And he's starting to announce, and mainly everything that he said about what's been done is a plan that is being put together, or people, the private sector, that are coming to help. We are putting a process together. We are going to work on this. Experts are going to come and do this. We're going to get extra power from there. And unfortunately, it just doesn't show the kind of government capability that is appropriate to deal with the seriousness of this problem. And let me tell you, my heart actually goes out to this minister a bit, because the recent announcement that took nearly 3 months to say what his powers were. The powers to make a determination are basically irrelevant to the load shedding at the moment. We have enough determinations. The real problem lies at the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, that has either not conducted bid auctions for new generation capacity, or when it has, it's either fluffed these, the car power ship being an example, but the latest bid window being another example, where some 5,600 megawatts was offered, but only a couple of 100 megawatts taken up in the offer.
Hilton, let me...
Yes, this minister, yeah.
Hilton, let me come in there. Just in terms of, the briefing itself, there were some announcements that sounded, it was repetitive of him. He repeated some of the things that he had said earlier, but it does sound like some form of a positive. He's mentioned that Mozambique can supply 80 megawatts to the country immediately and a further 1,000 megawatts in 6 months. And then he's also talked about, just in terms of zoning in on those very problematic, plants or power stations where energy availability has been low, and that, immediately technical experts are going to be there and zone in on those power stations. That does, in a way, I know what you're saying in terms of, just the work that is in front of this minister, but does that not provide in some way some form of positive news in the short term?
It's about as positive as he can get, given the reality that we have. So, and I'd like to be more positive, but Just imagine if he arrived and said they'd signed a contract for 80 megawatts and it was working with Mozambique. And just by the way, 80 megawatts is a drop in the ocean. It really is. But yes, every bit counts. But it's still a plan. We always knew that was available. And regarding your other specific thing, yes, Matla, Kendall, he says the private sector are going to give experts to come and help improve the energy availability factor. But we knew a year ago, we knew 2 years ago, we knew in December, we knew in March when he was appointed, the problems at those power stations, very specifically, well documented. We all knew, all of us whose job it is to know. In June, to be told that they are going to get help from the private sector, that's fantastic. It's wonderful. We need it. But it's still going to. Why aren't the experts there? What's been happening for the past 3 months, 6 months? We know that, and also the focus on improving energy availability factor. He said that long term is post April 2024. He said that, quote unquote. That is worrying because just about all the interventions to solve load shedding will only come into effect in an 18-month to 2-year period, begin to come into effect. What we do now is going to determine this time next year whether we've still got an electricity crisis, and we are not hearing how we are doing things now that are going to help then, and we're not seeing stuff being done to help the immediate crisis. So I'm afraid I'm just talking to the facts. I wish I could be saying here, that's so fantastic. The electricity minister has announced that the private sector experts that went into these power stations 3 months ago have made these and these and these improvements. We're getting this done. We've signed contracts for energy buyback from these and these and these big industrial customers, that we've had a successful demand management program where we've got consumers on board. And we told them 6 months ago, Nati, I ran a program, a big study, a 2-year study in 2007 with Eskom, where I and me and a big team, about 20 of us, 5 professors, etc., assessed the very successful Eskom demand side management program run with the first load shedding.
All right, Hilton.
They're starting.
Let's leave it there for now. I can see and hear that you are not really very convinced by that briefing, but thank you so much for your time.